I just want to talk about some of the benefits and some of the perks. And I think the reason that I think all guys should be training themselves in some sort of combat in some capacity. I really want every member of the Unplugged Brotherhood to be training, to be doing some sort of combat sport. But I think it's just the ultimate hack. Like guys love looking for hacks. Guys love looking for shortcuts. Like, oh, I want to lose weight, but I also want to get in, I want to build muscle, or I also want to get my cardio up, or I want to look good naked, or I want to be powerful and I want to be lethal and be dangerous. And it's like MMA solves a lot of those problems. And it's not just about the physical workouts, which are fantastic. Like there's no more strenuous workout and no more hardcore workout than I mean, I do sleds every day, like every Friday with my coach outside and get the shit kicked out of me and do tire flips and pull sleds and push sleds and stuff like that. But as far as like working out in the gym, as far as in the MMA gym, you don't really call it a dojo, but you call it the gym, like wrestling, right? Picking up somebody, tossing them around, taking them down, having people, put their full weight on top of you to try to keep you down. You're trying to flip them over and reverse them. It's the first time I did full on wrestling workouts and live wrestling, I was just dogging it. I would gas out after a minute, 2 minutes, slowly, built up, to more over the last couple of months. But it's not just the physical aspect, it's the mental aspect, right? So there are workouts and there's things that guys can do that I think are really good for your physical and really good for your mental. Like I think chess is a very mentally stimulating game. I think it's good for your mentality. It forces you to think about your moves in advance. It forces you to face the consequences of your mistakes. It's a battle of strategy. It's a battle of wits. And it's it can be very, very mental taxing, but also, and keep you mentally sharp. It's why it's a great game. But not a lot in the way of physicality, obviously. You can go to the gym, you can lift weights, unless you are somebody that really understands and can take yourself to that place in your mind where, you'll watch these training montages from these bodybuilders and these guys in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even now. They are the 0.01%. The vast majority of lifters, the vast majority of gym goers are not able to train as hard as these guys because they're not able to take themselves to that place mentally. And so great physical workout, but to the average person and the vast majority of men, you're going to lack in the mentality department because you're just not going to be able to get there and you're not going to force yourself to get there. That's something you have to actively force yourself to do. Now, the reason that I think that mixed martial arts is the perfect marriage of both of these things is because it's extremely physically taxing and extremely mentally taxing, right? A boxing match or an MMA match or a wrestling match is just like a chess match, except instead of taking pieces and moving on the board, you're moving yourself around, or you're moving your opponent around, or you're trying to get an advantage, you're trying to plan and react, you're trying to adapt, if he moves here, I'm going to move there. If he does this step, I'm going to go that. So there's a ton of mental aspect into it. And obviously you have the physical benefits of it. Not to mention, you don't have to force yourself to go there physically, especially if you're doing any live rolling or live sparring. Now, I'm not saying if you've never done any sort of combat sport, you need to throw on some headgear and boxing gloves and just get in the cage or the ring and just have somebody light you up, because you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to get the shit kicked out of you. And if that happens, especially when you're first starting out, you're probably not going to want to go back. It's one of those things where, you want small incremental victories and you want to get better over time, but there's no sense in going in there and just getting, ragdolled for your first time. So I wouldn't recommend getting into any sort of live sparring, especially with fists and punches. I mean, live wrestling and live jiu-jitsu, you could probably do that within the first couple of months, but putting on headgear, putting on shin pads, knee pads, elbow pads, and gloves and mouthpiece and going, you're probably going to want to go at least 6 months. And that's if you train every single day, like probably a year or so. But anyway, now if you get to a point where you're doing live rolling, you're doing live wrestling, even if you're sparring, it's not only just the physical, like the force mechanism, like you're being forced into this physical deep end. You're being forced into it, right? There's There's somebody trying to punch you in the face. There's somebody trying to take you down and impose their physical will upon you to submit you or to tap you out or break your arm or twist your ankle or choke you out. There's That's being forced upon you. Like, you don't have a choice. The only choice is to tap out. But I mean, I guess you could go that route, but then the fight is over. Then you're not going to get any better when it comes to that. So there is, for my money, there's no better marriage of a single activity where you will be able to learn a valuable skill, which is defend yourself or learn how to throw punches or learn how to throw your weight around. We'll just say defend yourself and protect yourself and your family and your loved ones. And the importance of that, we'll get to that in a second. But then also do something that's physically demanding and do something that's just as mentally demanding as it's physically demanding. And it's fun. Like, for guys, it's fun, man. Like, there's a lot of it's high testosterone. It's the feeling of hitting something or putting a good combination together, hitting a tie pad or kicking a tie pad, hitting some mitts. There's just nothing like it. Everybody that I've ever met that's taken any sort of boxing class or kickboxing class has always loved it. And I've never really had somebody come to me and say, "Oh yeah, like I didn't really like it," unless they were stuck with like a teacher that didn't care about them or they got paired with somebody that wasn't giving them the pointers. That's why whenever I'm in a class that's not more advanced, when I'm in sort of the fundamentals classes, like I go to the boxing fundamentals classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and usually there's newer people. So I always like to go with the newer people because I want to help grow the gym. I want to help support the business, support the coaches, continue growing, because the more you grow, the more guys get attracted to your gym, the better the pool of talent is, the better you're going to get on top of that. Everything is better when it's just like building a community, right? The more good members you attract, the better your network, the more things you're able to do, the more people see eye to eye, and the better you're going to get because you're going to be a product of the people that you spend the most of your time around. So the prevailing sentiment is like, yeah, like the hardest part for people to do is just to try it and get started. As with most things, it's the number one thing. It's just like, oh, I don't have the time, or I don't know, this and that and the other. And I just tell people, just give it a shot. Like, just go sign up for an entry class. They Almost every gym out there will give you a free intro class, or they'll give you like three intro classes for $20 or something like that. They'll get some sort of deal. And then, yeah, there's like a pitch at the end. They see if you want to sign up. But there's always, there are generally options that are, in the lower cost range, and you're just starting out. You don't have to start off going 5 days a week and go once a week and go twice a week. But for my money, there is not a single activity that you can do that is going to get you in better shape, help you lose fat, lose weight, allow you to develop self-defense and skills that are going to help you prepare yourself physically for threats, protect yourself, protect your loved ones, everything like that. That's healthy competition. That is a solid environment where people generally are unplugged. Not always, but MMA gyms, you generally have more unplugged guys than most other places. Again, it's not a substitute for a place like the Brotherhood, where we have the community of guys that's already been built and established. I can maybe count on one hand the guys at my gym that I would consider really unplugged guys, but it's more than I would run into at any sort of other public setting or any other event that I would go to. And that's a win. That's a positive. So the community, the network, the physicality, the mental aspect of being able to needing to stay sharp, needing to stay ahead of your opponent, and being unable to quit. Right. So once you're in there, that's it. Your only way out is when that round ends and that bell sounds. And one of the things that I can tell you guys, and that I've noticed, and for my own life, and I've noticed this and I've heard this from guys that have started training, is your problems start to become smaller. Right. So a lot of guys have an issue with, oh, I can't go to bed on time, or I can't stop eating sweets at night, or I can't seem to sit down and do the work that I need to do. I don't have the mental bandwidth to apply for jobs if I'm unemployed, or to reach out to clients if I'm trying to get a business off the ground, or go ask for referrals. And all it's telling me is that you're just not doing enough hard things in your day. Right. So it's like sitting on the couch, playing video games, eating junk food, scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. None of those things should be alternative options to what you need to do. So if I've got a guy that's like, hey, I'm really struggling with staying focused, it's like, okay, where I'm sitting down at my desk or whatever it is and hammering on my work. I was like, okay, well, you're going to have two options. You either need to sit down at your desk and hammer out this work, or you need to go on a run. Those are your only two options. Or you need to go put your gloves on and go hit the heavy bag, or you're going to go to the gym and take a wrestling class. If those are your only alternatives, then it's going to seem a lot easier to sit down at the desk and hammer out the work and bust out the chapters of your book or hammer on that project or whatever it is that you need to be doing or you should be doing. That's going to sound a lot cooler and a lot easier than going and sparring for half an hour or going on a 3-mile run. Now, does that necessarily mean that you shouldn't go spar? You shouldn't go on a run? No, but productivity and making sure you're doing the things you need to do and the things that you're doing are getting done, you need to only allow yourselves to have those options. Like sitting on the couch, like watching YouTube, playing video games is not an option. It's just not. It's not something you're going to allow because you're going to default to that every time. If you simply make it not an option and your only options are put in the work at your desk or put in the work at the gym, pretty good productivity options on either side of the board. You should be having a healthy mix. Hopefully you're not living in the gym or you're not sitting at your desk all the time. You need to have that healthy balance. But, kind of whatever it is you want to do least, you should do that. So I think it's the best all around. I think for guys that are looking for that hack where it's like, oh, I can't lose the weight, dude, you will burn more calories in MMA workouts and boxing workouts than you can imagine, than you ever will with weightlifting. And you could do other forms of cardio that are super boring. Like I used to do a ton of incline treadmill, Stairmaster. I don't necessarily think that your cardio has to be insanely boring and difficult. Again, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be difficult, but there seems to be a point in time and there's a line where if something just seems like it's so difficult or something seems like it's insurmountable, people just won't do it. So if you're able to make training fun, if you're able to incorporate a new skill, if you're able to mentally train yourself and test yourself, if you're able to, network and bond with dudes that are going through the same stuff and are like-minded, if you're able to physically test, challenge yourself and change your body, it is absolutely a cheat code. All from doing this one thing, all from this one activity, all from combat sports.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.